Hi there, this is Ellen Bogle, and this is my assistive technology instructional lesson. The lesson I have designed was prepared for a third grade co-taught gen ed classroom. There are two teachers in the classroom, one gen ed teacher and one sped teacher. There are approximately 25 students in the classroom, 10 of which receive special education services. Their disabilities range from OHI, SLD, and autism. And the kids that have OHI either have ADHD or they're hearing impaired. My purpose in designing this lesson was twofold. First and foremost, though, is always the standards. Virginia Standards of Learning 3.3 says the student will study the exploration of the Americas by we want them to describe the accomplishments of various important explorers. We talk about a few of the important settlements that were founded during this period. And we also talk about things related to exploring, talking about the results of the travels and the impact of the travels on the Native Americans. The second goal of my lesson plan has to do with critical thinking. Something that I have noticed as I've taught students who have disabilities is this. As difficult as it is for typical third graders to think critically about presented material, it is even that much harder for our students with disabilities. It is vitally important that we explicitly teach them to manipulate and organize information in such a way that they are able to see certain patterns in that information, so that they can start to use these patterns to evaluate and problem solve, skills that are essential as they progress in life. How else can we ever expect them to keep up with their typical peers? I've designed several different components that will help me reach my goal for this lesson, all of which are designed to explicitly encourage critical thinking while presenting the material that reaches the standards. The first component is a flip chart that will serve as a discussion guide and begins the comparison between Jamestown and Plymouth Rock. An offline foldable note-taking activity works hand in hand with the flip chart. Each student will use it to organize the presented information into a compare and contrast format. The third component is a Kahoot, which is an engaging and interactive discussion guide and practice tool. And then there will be a Poplet, which is a digital mind map that tasks students with creating a Venn diagram-like graphic and will be used as an assessment at the end of the lesson. So first things first, the flip chart and the foldable note-taking activity. These will work hand in hand. So as the teacher is presenting the information in flip chart form, the students will be working at their desks with their foldable. Starting off, the teacher will activate prior knowledge by asking if anyone has ever moved towns or started a new school, and try to generate some discussion about the feelings about such a move. The teacher then uses the flip chart to lead a discussion of the essential information about Jamestown and Plymouth Rock and the explorers who founded them. The emphasis will be on the differences and similarities between the two settlements. Notice the slide that has the Venn diagram. That's an interactive activity where students will come up to the board and they will select an item and move it into the correct positioning in the Venn diagram. Here are some pictures of the foldable that I created for this lesson. Notice that it is very simple, but I believe that it's effective in showing the similarities and differences between Jamestown and Plymouth. It is a hands-on, active engagement tool. Keeps the kids involved in the lesson as the flip chart is being presented. I think that it will aid in retention, and the students are tasked with taking information and actively organizing it into a different format. I believe this challenge encourages critical thinking about the material and models how to manipulate information into a form that's easier to evaluate. There's a lot going on this slide, most of it having to do with modifying the foldable and some different ways to differentiate this part of the lesson. But one thing I wanted to show you real quick was in the left-hand picture, you can see that there is the foldable as it will be distributed to the students. So see how there's a solid line and there are some dotted lines. The dotted lines are where the students will cut to make the flaps, and the solid line is where they're going to fold so that it gets folded up into the foldable. So I wanted to show that to you. Also notice in that same picture are some stacks of words. And what I decided to prepare were these vocabulary cards that could be used as they're the same words that we want the kids to be writing into the foldables, but for students who have dysgraphia or some kind of a processing disability, I wanted to come up with a different way for them to participate in the lesson in a way that alleviates the burden of writing but still maintains the integrity of the lesson. And I thought that this was a good alternative. So instead of writing the information in, they will select from the stacks and find that information and just glue it in. And I think that will alleviate the burden and keep them focused on the lesson. So some other things that I thought of besides the vocabulary cards that could modify this part of it is that students can work in pairs. And I think that sometimes helps, is if one kid is busy writing and they miss a part of the lesson, they can work together to kind of help each other fill in the answers. And a finished model could be provided to check progress or finished work. This foldable can be used as a review or a study guide prior to the unit exam. It's time for a change of pace in our lesson. I built a Kahoot because I think Kahoot is such an interactive and engaging way for students to practice the material that they've just learned. The teacher will post the Kahoot game pin on the Promethean board, and students will work individually at their desks on Chromebooks. As the Kahoot progresses, the teacher reads the quiz questions aloud, which supports the students with reading disabilities. The Kahoot quiz guides discussion through the material that's essential to the standards and highlights the similarities and differences between the two settlements. This is preparing the students for the critical thinking challenge we are about to give them. As special education teachers, we're all super familiar with graphic organizers and how much they can help our students with special needs. As I was doing some research for this project, I ran across digital mind maps and digital graphic organizers, and one of them that I specifically really liked was Poplet. Um, it's it is appropriate for third graders due to its engaging interface, but I find it useful for my own work as an adult. So it's something that I think is worth looking into. There are templates that you can build to provide for students who require more assistance. But I think this is a great way for students to organize their thoughts into some form of a map that can help them to retain their information or demonstrate their knowledge. I want to use it for this lesson so that students can use it as an exit ticket, an assessment, so that they can demonstrate their knowledge to their teachers about what we learned in this lesson about Jamestown, Plymouth Rock, and their similarities and differences. What I find really cool about this is that this lesson takes us from them just acquiring brand new information, working with it a little bit, working with it a little bit more, manipulating it into a different format, and then now they're able to put it into this really cool map that looks like a Venn diagram, or they can put it into their own format if they like, and it demonstrates their ability to critically think about the material that was presented to them in today's lesson. That's it for my lesson today. I look forward to hearing all of your lessons.